Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. Today is Thursday, July 17th. I am your host, Josh Newberg, and there is much to talk about today. A crazy week in the SEC when it comes to recruiting. Texas and Georgia throwing haymakers. We're going to break it all down with Steve Wiltfong, but first, hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruiting channel. If you love hearing from Steve, Chad Simmons, Sam Spiegelman, Adam Gorney. We got the whole crew here now, and we are featuring them on this channel. So jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring in Steve Wiltfong. And the Texas Longhorns are on fire, up to number 6. Last week around this time, they were sitting at 12 or 13. So Tuesday was the day. Not only did Sark take the stage at SEC Media Days, but Texas lit up the recruiting world, landing number 1 linebacker Tyler Atkinson and then flipping number 1 defensive lineman James Johnson from Georgia, which was more surprising to you, Steve?
Well, I think obviously them flipping James J.J. Johnson was something that was a little unexpected, but Texas never went away on his recruitment. In fact, when he committed to Georgia, I think that came as a surprise to the folks around the Longhorns program. Now, Georgia led for a lot of J.J. Johnson's recruitment, but a visit to Austin in April, then a return visit in the summer. It looked like Texas was in great position. He commits to Georgia, but Steve Sarkisian and this coaching staff stayed relentless. And obviously they were able to flip J.J. Johnson, a combination of what they've done on the field, what they can do for their student athletes off the field. It was too much for Georgia to keep him in the fold. He's locked in with Texas. That was a huge flip. And them landing Tyler Atkinson, nobody should be surprised about the prowess on the trail that Texas has right now. Tyler Atkinson's been to campus numerous times, including his last official visit the weekend of June 20th. Now, Texas is a program that maybe came on strong late, but came on strong late when comparing to Georgia, Clemson, and some other programs. But when you look at Texas, you look at the way they've developed Anthony Hill Jr., the opportunity to come into that defense and be a day one starter next year and fill those shoes. Again, what Texas does off the field for their student athletes from an NIL perspective, the fact that he trains in the city of Austin, he's already comfortable there. Texas had a lot going for them. We saw Texas have some big recruiting wins to end the last cycle, including Justice Terry out of the Peach State, them going in and beating Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Clemson for Tyler Atkinson. One of the more impressive recruiting wins this cycle.
Steve, this Texas-Georgia rivalry really just getting started. It kind of goes back to 2024 when Georgia went into the state of Texas, landed the number 1 linebacker, Justin Williams. Then Texas returns the favor last cycle. Justice Terry, a Georgia lead for much of the cycle, ends up in Austin. And now we've had the battles this week, but we got another one coming up on deck. Derek Cooper is the next Texas-Georgia battle. It's going to go down on Sunday when he makes his decision. What's the latest here?
Well, as Steve Sarkisian in this Texas program tries to get to the heights that they want to get to in the college football universe, they know they got to beat Georgia on the field. Yes, they've had some good wins against them on the trail, but it only matters what you do on Saturdays, and they lost twice to the Bulldogs last fall, once at home in prime time, and then again in the SEC championship game. So you got to beat them on the trail for some guys to keep gaining those inches on the SEC powerhouse program. Derek Cooper is someone that looks like he could be trending Texas here at the end of the cycle. Another recruitment where Georgia's probably been the most prominent team in Derek Cooper's process as much as anybody. Miami's in there. He's liked Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, to name a few others. But Georgia's been the leader for the most time. But it only matters who leads at the end. And Texas is coming on strong. He has emerged as their top running back target. He's being recruited accordingly off the field. And I think that it is an exciting opportunity for him with the way that Texas has developed running backs. And again, the way that their football players are taken care of from an NIL standpoint. Texas is looking strong down the stretch, but Georgia's still battling. And we know no matter what happens when he announces his college decision this weekend, that Miami is going to hang around in this process. And they're doing what they can to win it this weekend as well.
Yeah, that's true. Texas, like I said, last week around this time, sitting at 12 or 13, now currently sitting at number 6. If they can land Cooper, it could surge them inside that top 5. Do you think we could be talking back-to-back number 1 classes for the Texas Longhorns?
Well, one thing that'll decide that is how guys play as a senior evaluations, where their rankings are at the end of the cycle. They got some other targets out there right now. You have Rivals number 1 ranked cornerback Davon Benjamin. They're in the final 3 with Oregon and Michigan. Jake Kroll, a prize edge rusher recruit out of IMG Academy. Oklahoma's had a lot of buzz around it, but at the end of summer, Texas is picking up steam with Jake Kroll. They're going to continue to recruit guys like Michigan offensive line commit Malachi Lee. They're going to have their own senior evals in the fall, so we'll see who else they go in on. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to land another receiver. The first one that comes to mind is LSU commit Jabari Mack. We talked about this on the Inside Texas recruiting board. I said I think Texas might take another receiver or try to take one. I got questions about Kadon Finley, committed to Notre Dame, Jalen Lott, committed to Oregon. Those guys went through their entire processes, took their 5 official visits in the summer, went out and saw a bunch of schools, and Texas did not win those recruitments. Jabari Mack, his recruitment the week before he committed to LSU, maybe even days before, he said Texas was his leader, visited LSU, jumped in. So I think Texas will still continue to recruit him as a young man that maybe didn't go through his entire process before jumping into LSU. And then linebacker Isaiah Williams is one more name to certainly keep an eye on for Texas. 5-star recruit from Florida. He's someone that they were communicating with, a potential official visit maybe this fall. So we'll see what continues to develop there. Although a lot of that intel was coming in before Tyler Atkinson committed.
Great intel there, Steve, on the Longhorns. Texas fans, talk to us. How are you guys feeling? Do you think that Texas could run it back with another number 1 class? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, let's talk a little Georgia recruiting, because just as quickly as the Dogs surged into the number 1 spot this week, Texas knocks them down, only to number 2. Atkinson to Texas, James Johnson flips to Texas. So, Steve, what's Georgia's next move to fill the spot of Johnson's departure on that defensive line?
Well, there's 2 defensive linemen that Georgia's trending for right now. You have Valdin Soni, a 4-star recruit from Sweden, who's going to be announcing his college decision in the coming week. And the Bulldogs are trending heavy. Nebraska, the other program to watch in that recruitment right now with some of the things that they're doing off the football field. But Georgia is the program that I think is in best position for Valdin. And then you have local in-state 4-star recruit Anthony Lanone. I joined Jeremy Johnson from Dogs HQ with a Rivals prediction in favor of Georgia. I think he is trending heavy to the Bulldogs as well. So that's 2 more defensive linemen with major upside, the traits that they covet at the point of attack. Trey Scott in the middle of all those recruitments. They want to be developed by the best in the country. Georgia is the program that's in the best position for each of those coveted recruits.
All right, so we talked about Tyler Atkinson going to Texas, the coveted linebacker from in-state. They miss on him, but a day later, Georgia goes into Maryland and lands 4-star Nick Abrams. Steve, he goes 6'2", 220. What type of player are the Dogs getting in Abrams?
A long, high upside, very high IQ football player that plays with the physicality that Coach Glenn Schumann, Coach Smart, and company covet at the position. He's still growing into that massive frame. And again, he plays fast because he is an instinctual, high IQ player and a guy that Georgia absolutely coveted during his process. He also strongly considered Alabama, came down to Georgia and Oregon. Michigan made a couple pushes at the end, but it was always Georgia for their player development, relationship with the staff. And then he wants to be a business major. Georgia, one of the toughest schools, one of the toughest public schools in the country to get into. And Georgia's business school is something that's very exciting to him as well.
So according to your intel, who else is Georgia making a priority right now on the recruiting trail?
Well, we talked about the 2 defensive linemen. Obviously, they would love to land the number 2 running back in the country, Derek Cooper. They're pushing for him, and I think he's someone that's kind of in that same stratosphere of, look, we went all in on Jackson Cantwell. We went all in on Jared Curtis. Derek Cooper, someone that's been at the top of their board for the entire cycle with the likes of Tyler Atkinson, Mark Bowman, and Caden Prothro and company. And they've been in great position for Derek Cooper for much of his process, but Texas coming on strong at the end. And we know Miami's not going to go away. Isaiah Williams, linebacker, committed to Ole Miss. I think dialogue continues with Rivals #1 ranked running back in Georgia. We'll see if he gets on campus this fall, but Coach Glenn Schumann and company maintaining the lines of communication with Isaiah Williams. But Georgia's about done. Running back's another place where I could see them looking to land someone. If they don't get Derek Cooper, they'll evaluate senior tape. Maybe it's a guy like in-state recruit Amari Latimer, currently committed to Wisconsin. A player like that is someone to keep an eye on for Georgia. The Bulldogs are very keen on senior film, and they flip a top prospect or two every year, a guy that rose on their board that kind of came out of nowhere, but someone they fell in love with on senior tape. That's going to be something to monitor with Georgia during the season.
Let's talk some Michigan recruiting. The Wolverines landed another DB last night, Jordan Deck. And this one comes via the flip. Steve, take us behind the scenes of how Michigan was able to pull this off.
He loves the style of defense, the way they develop their defensive backs, the pro background that Wink Martindale and company have in Ann Arbor, the culture, where Michigan's at as a football program. I just think at the time he committed to Baylor, the Bears were on the gas. There was more urgency with Baylor at that point. But as Michigan's winding down the summer, looking at their board, who are the guys they covet, this is a young man they had to have, and they pushed for him and got him in the fold.
Big win for Michigan there. Now, does that move mean Michigan is out of it for Davon Benjamin, another defensive back that's going to be making a decision soon?
Absolutely not. Davon Benjamin's one of the top 7 or 8 players Michigan is recruiting in the 2026 cycle, and they've come on strong with visits in the spring and in the summer. My prediction is on Oregon right now for Davon Benjamin, but Michigan is certainly one of the programs that he's communicating with regularly, talking about on-field opportunities and off-field opportunities, and the Wolverines remain in the picture for Davon Benjamin as he continues to work through his process.
All right. A week ago at this time, last Friday, linebacker DQ Forkpo was set to make his decision, and he was trending heavily to the Florida Gators. All of a sudden, the morning of, he calls it off. We were expecting to host that commitment, but he wasn't ready, which is okay. So was this a positive development for Michigan recruiting?
Well, sure. If he's not committed, you're still in the game. And a source close to DQ told me that Michigan was the program emerging as the one to watch alongside the favorite Florida. And he's been up to Michigan a couple times, feels very comfortable in that program, sees an opportunity to compete early. And his representation, his people around him, likes the way that Michigan treats their student athletes. So there's certainly a factor there. And they're also battling Ole Miss for linebacker Anthony Davis, who's going to commit early next month. The Rebels have had momentum going back to the spring, but Michigan has made him a priority, and they're trying to make a move with the Loganville Grayson standout as well.
All right. And then Savion Hyder has teased that decision date, but do we have a date yet? I mean, that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago now.
Look, he's still dotting I's and crossing T's with this process, having conversations with these coaching staffs. Obviously, they're still figuring out things away from the football field as well. But Michigan remains in the top 2 with Tennessee. I do think he's trying to make his college decision this summer, and there's even been some talk in July. And none of these schools are pressuring him. You know, they know where they stand. They know they're one of his favorites. And for Michigan, he might be target numero uno of the entire class. Their top player on the board. I think if Sharon Moore and company were drafting, you've heard me say it numerous times, they'd start with Savion Hyder. And so this is a guy that they've poured a lot into on and off the field. Tennessee has really risen in this recruitment with multiple visits this calendar year, including 865 Live to kick off summer. They got the last official visit. So Tennessee giving Savion Hyder a lot to think about, but he loves the people at Michigan, the style of play on offense. He spent a lot of time around the players on the team, including Bryce Underwood, who's kind of been an ace in the hole as a recruiter for the Wolverines, the #1 ranked recruit last year, 5-star quarterback. On the cover of the Wolverine Michigan season preview as a true freshman. He's been involved in helping recruit Michigan's top targets. And I think at Michigan, Savion Hyder sees an opportunity to come to a program where the running back is the featured player on offense. And that's the guy that they'd love to give the keys to. Michigan, my gut's still with the Wolverines, but you cannot sleep on the checkered orange for Savion Hyder as he continues through his process.
All right. Rumor alert right here on this channel. Justin Wells from Inside Texas was here talking on Sunday about Texas flip targets. Mentioned Malachi Lee, Zayden Krempin is two of Texas's top flip targets. So if you're in Michigan country, should there be any concern over Malachi Lee in Texas? Is it too early to tell? What do you think?
Well, anytime Texas looms, they're a powerful program for what they bring to the table on the field, the type of culture that Coach Steve Sarkisian and company have built, and then the resources they have to also make it an attractive place for top recruits. But Michigan does not show up to a gunfight with a knife in that arena as well. Malachi Lee, we talked about Davon Benjamin and Savion Hyder being in that group of 7 or 8, just absolute top of the board targets. Malachi Lee is in that group. Michigan was first to prioritize him, get him on campus. He's been to games inside the big house, loves the staff, Sharon Moore, Grant Newsome. And again, I think Michigan taking care of him the way that they need to. They can go to battle in this one and hang on for Malachi Lee. But certainly if Texas is calling and they're talking to Texas, you got to be a little worried.
All right, Michigan fans, how are you guys feeling about Malachi Lee? Is he solid? I think he is right now. But also, who do you think are the most important targets moving forward? Let us know. All right, Steve, we got a major QB domino falling on Friday. Landon Duckworth right here on the Rivals Recruits channel. He's going to make his decision. Who are the contenders? And Steve, what are you hearing as we're about 24 hours out?
Well, the final two is South Carolina and Auburn, and the Gamecocks have been trending heavy again since the spring. He was committed to South Carolina early in his process. They had some coaching turnover. Dow Logans leaves as the OC, goes to App State. Landon Duckworth trended to places like UCF because of his relationship with then head coach Gus Malzahn. But it's South Carolina with the momentum again, and this would be a pivotal pickup for Shane Beamer and his staff as they look to be a program that is ascending to the heights of the Steve Spurrier era and beyond. They have arguably the best quarterback in college football this year in Lenoris Sellers. And Landon Duckworth has a similar skill set. He's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country. He's a winner, a state champion, a good leader. The Gamecocks love his intangibles. I don't know if he's someone that you can immediately hand the keys to as a true freshman, but you get this young man in your program by year 2, he's got a chance to be an absolute difference maker under center for the program he chooses. And for South Carolina, where they're at as a program, they got to continue to keep that quarterback room humming. And Landon Duckworth is someone that has all the traits to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And I like where South Carolina stands going into his decision.
Well, if South Carolina is able to land Duckworth, definitely going to have some momentum behind that. So who else is trending in South Carolina's direction right now?
Well, a young man that they've always been in great shape with at the top of the list for is 5-star offensive lineman Darius Gray. They're battling LSU. In my opinion, Gray put out his top 5 recently. It also included Tennessee, Clemson, and Ohio State. But South Carolina and LSU are the two programs that I think are in best position. And while my prediction is currently on LSU, I have had my prediction on South Carolina in this recruitment. Would not be surprised if that came full circle. He feels at home at South Carolina. He loves where this program is going from a trajectory standpoint. He thinks they can win big. And that is one of the most important things in his recruitment. He is not a big NIL recruit. He's looking for player development, number 1, and playing for conference and national championships, number 2. At LSU, he sees Brad Davis and Brian Kelly's track record. LSU's a program that year in and year out is competing for the national championship. But South Carolina, it's an opportunity to get in at a program that is on the rise and help take them to some heights that they haven't seen before. Darius Gray believes in Shane Beamer and this staff. Extreme comfort level. No program has recruited him longer or harder. So Darius Gray remains the top target on the board. And then certainly they're not going to go away on a couple in-state recruits that committed elsewhere. Cornerback Samari Matthews, he's committed to Texas. Tamarian Watkins is a linebacker safety target that recently committed to the Aggies. But South Carolina is going to hang in there for them. And obviously Darius Gray and Landon Duckworth are the two biggest fish still out there for Shane Beamer and company.